video, I'll show you how to find the articles that you need for your library research during your OT program here at Cinahl. The page we're on right now is the OT Research Guide, and this is a page that we've put together to collect all the resources that you'll need for library research here at Cinahl. We'll go to the Evidence-Based Practice tab in just a minute, but first I want to show you the Librarian Resources. You have a librarian, Emily Thornton, and I encourage you to email me or to make an appointment if you have any questions about how to do library research, how to cite, how to apply anything that we've talked about in this video. My direct contact information is here. You can also go over here to this Ask Us button and search your question. If your question has not already been answered in our FAQs, you can ask within this form and it'll get emailed to a librarian. So don't hesitate to use those resources because that's why we're here. I'm going to scroll back up and go to the Evidence-Based Practice tab. This is where we're going to do a lot of our research. And you'll see here a list of databases and journals. We'll come back to this top section here, but I wanted to point out that we also have psychology databases. We have OT journals, so if your professor wants you to go search specifically in AJOT or BJOT or the Journal of Hand Therapy, you can just jump straight to one of those journals from here. However, when you're just doing broad research, I would encourage you to come up and select one of these OT databases instead of just searching in one journal, because you'll get a more broad range of results. So when you're choosing a database, you need to think about what your topic is. Who else would be interested in your topic? What other fields would be writing about your topic? Would nurses be more interested in your topic? Would physical therapists be more interested in your topic? Would public health administrators be more interested in your topic? That will help you choose which database to look at. Today we're going to look at Cinahl Plus with full text. Cinahl is a very large database intended for nurses and allied health professionals. So I'll click on Cinahl Plus with full text. And that's going to bring us to a new tab. You may be asked to sign in with your Cinahl information. If so, go ahead and do that. And this lands us on the Cinahl main search page. And I want to point out two things here before you go any further. First is you should have a piece of paper or Word document or something pulled up to be your research log here. So at this point, you would write down, I am searching in Cinahl. And the reason I emphasize this is it is so easy to get lost when you're searching in all of these databases. It's so easy to forget what database you're using, what it's called, what search terms you use, what was successful, what you need to go track down later on. You really should have a piece of paper, a Word document, an email to yourself, something to help you keep track of all this. So for example, this screen that we're looking at right now, you can barely see the word Cinahl. You see this huge logo here in the middle that says EBSCOhost. So students come to me and say, I searched EBSCOhost and I couldn't find anything. And I'll say, well, EBSCOhost is not a database. That's the name of a vendor that sells dozens of databases. So we don't really know where you looked. So ignore that EBSCOhost logo there in the middle. Write down on your piece of paper, I am searching Cinahl right now. The next thing that you'll do is look for some kind of advanced search option. So you see that there's a really basic search box here in the middle. It's tempting to just start your search there, but always start with advanced search. That's going to give you the ability to narrow down your search and really fine-tune it. For example, you can see here that we have 3 separate search boxes with the ability to add more, and there are dozens of ways to narrow down your search. We'll get to those in a little bit. So for this sample search, let's pretend that we are interested in traumatic brain injury and its effect on gait in children. So I'll start with a pretty broad search just for traumatic brain injury. And then I see some suggestions here of other search terms that I might use, head injury, brain injury, or TBI. Okay, so I'm going to add for TBI here. So regardless of whether the article calls it traumatic brain injury or TBI, I want it to bring back both of those terms, so I'll put both of those in there. If I wanted to broaden my search and add acquired brain injury, I could do that here. I could just select one of their suggestions. I'm just going to leave it alone, though, at traumatic brain injury. And I'm going to put quotation marks around traumatic brain injury because that's a multi-word phrase that means something specific. So I want the database to search for those 3 specific words in that specific order. And I'll click search to see how many articles we get with just the term or the concept of traumatic brain injury or TBI. And wow, we have almost 26,000 search results for TBI. So now we'll add in our second concept. So I'll add gait here. And what we're doing here is telling the database, I only want to see articles that are about both TBI and gait. If it's only about gait, I don't want to see it. If it's only about TBI, I don't want to see it. This and connector means that it has to be about both of those concepts combined. So I have TBI and I have gait. I'll click search. And we go from 26,000 down to only 300. And at first that seems like bad news. Oh no, I lost tens of thousands of articles. But actually it's good news because that means that we've kicked out tens of thousands of irrelevant articles. Now everything that's left is actually about our 2 combined ideas of TBI and gait. That's great. At this point, I would usually pause and skim over just the titles of the articles in my search results to make sure they're generally in the right zone, that I'm not using a term that's bringing back a bunch of incorrect or irrelevant articles. So I'll just skim them over and yeah, okay, this looks pretty much like what I'm interested in. If I was getting a lot of articles that were irrelevant, or I'm not getting enough articles about my topic, I would come back up and look at my search results. Is there anything that I need to tweak? Do I need to use a more specific term, or do I need to use more synonyms? For example, I had used just the term gait here, but if I wasn't getting enough search results, I might say gait or, and then all these suggestions that Cinahl is giving me, gait or walking or ambulation or locomotion or mobility. Just for the sake of demonstration, I'll choose all those terms and say it doesn't have to be just gait, it could be any of those terms. And we go from 300 search results to 729. So opening up our search terms will give us more search results. I'm going to take away all these other terms though because we had so many good results with just gait. I'll just stick to that. I still have the option to narrow it down even further. So if you recall, my topic is about TBI and gait in the population of children. So I would type in child. Again, if I wanted to expand my search to include adolescents or youth or teenagers, that's fine, I could do that. I want to be pretty strict though and just say only child. Click search. So that brings us down to 37 search results. You could keep adding more search boxes and more and more and more. Be careful of adding on too many search terms all at once. You might accidentally wind up eliminating a lot of relevant articles by being too demanding. You can try to brainstorm for more search terms to use by scrolling down and going to this subject major heading area. So when you click on subject major heading, that is a list of essentially tags that have been applied to these articles. So someone has gone through and said that these articles are majorly about these terms. Some of these are no surprise. Brain injury, 32 of the articles are about that, of course. That was one of our main terms. Gait, walking, that's no surprise. This is kind of interesting. Balance, postural. So when I'm doing later research, I might say, a lot of my articles said that they were about balance, postural. Is that relevant to what I'm working on? Do I maybe need to add that as a search term later on? So I like to use the subject major heading area to help me brainstorm more search terms. So we're back to our 37 search results. Now there are 3 ways to limit your search that you may be thinking right off the bat, I'm going to do these. You probably have been trained from your undergrad years to always check off full text, always check off that they were published in the last 5 years, and to always check off peer reviewed. I want you to proceed with caution on that now that you guys are advanced graduate students and you're doing more specific research. So for example, this limiter to full text, you could check off this limiter and say, only show me articles that I have full text access to immediately. So all these articles that say, yes, PDF full text is right here, PDF full text, those would stay. But articles like these ones that have no PDF full text icon that just say request through interlibrary loan, those would be kicked out. As an undergrad, you were probably fine with that. Like, yeah, I only want to see articles that I can have immediately. But because you are now doing very specific advanced research, you don't necessarily want to kick out an article just because you don't have immediate access to it. Later on in this tutorial, I'll show you how you can get your hands on these articles for free. It only takes a couple of extra steps. So you don't want to necessarily eliminate a really good article just because it's going to take you a couple of extra steps to get to it. Don't recommend checking off full text. The publication date is another one that you may have used a lot. Sometimes professors will say you can only use articles from the last 5 years. Don't include any articles that are 10 years old. And that's totally valid and legitimate. If that's what your professor says, then you should go with that. However, you can often use older articles in order to find really relevant newer articles. We'll show you how to do that later on in this tutorial with Google Scholar. So you are welcome to change that publication date if you want and say, I only want to see articles from 2015 and later, whatever the last 5 years is. But I wouldn't do that automatically. I would maybe look at some older articles and see if you can use that Google Scholar trick that we'll show you later in order to guide you to relevant newer articles and help you discover those. So I'll type in 2015 and hit enter, and that brings us down to 15 search results that fit all of our criteria and that were published in the last 5 years. And then finally, you can click on Show More to get to Peer Reviewed Only. So we clicked on Show More, this window popped up, and I'm scrolling down to where it says Peer Reviewed. So the peer review process is where the author writes his article and sends it into a journal, and then other OT experts review it before it's published, and they say, yes, this author appears to have followed good scientific practice. They're not jumping to any wild conclusions. Peer-reviewed check is a sort of a reassurance to you as a scholar that the article that you're looking at is probably good science. So I'll check that off and hit search, and actually every single one of our 15 search results was already peer-reviewed, so we didn't lose any. But that's kind of a nice reassurance for you. I wouldn't automatically always check off that peer-reviewed option, though. There's a lot of good information out there that is not necessarily peer-reviewed. For example, let's say that there was a statewide public health program that included occupational therapy, and it went on for years, and the state publishes a report on the effectiveness of that program. That government report is not necessarily going to have that handy little peer-reviewed label, but it's still really good information for you. So if your professor is saying, I only want you to turn in articles from a peer-reviewed source, then that's fine. Check off the peer-reviewed option, and then you'll get the appropriate kinds of information. But don't just automatically every single time check off peer-reviewed, because you might actually eliminate good information if you do that. So now we're down to 15 search results. I'm going to choose one of these to look at just as a demonstration. For example, this one, use of an instrumented dual task timed up and go test in children with traumatic brain injury. Whew, it's a long title. I'll click on the title to get to more information about this. If I scroll down, I have this source line. This tells you what journal it came from, what month and year, the issue number, and the page numbers. This will be important when you do your citations. The major subjects and minor subjects, these are really helpful for seeing what this article is primarily about, and it can help you generate some ideas for more search terms in the future. And then I really encourage you to actually read the abstract. Take 5 minutes, read the abstract. This is a summary of what the article is about, and from this, you can get a sense of whether this article is worth your time or not. If you're ever looking for the DOI, the digital object identifier that you often need for citations, it is generally down here at the bottom of this list. There are a bunch of tools over here on the side that you can use. It gives you the option to add to Google Drive and add to folder and email. I find all those a little bit complicated. The save option actually turns out to be pretty complicated because it wants you to create an account and blah, blah, blah. The main things that you'll want to know are this Cite button right here. So when you click on the Cite button, it shows you what the citation for this article should be in a bunch of different citation styles. You use APA, so you could copy and paste this into your references. And this is a really nice shortcut because it pulls together most of the information that you need for your APA citation. But about half the time, these citations are wrong. So you really need to double check it before you turn it in. There's the cite button. If you want to link to this article in the future, you definitely are going to want to use the permalink option here. So when you click on permalink, it gives you a URL up here that you can copy and paste, and that will actually work in the future. You do not want to use the URL up here at the top of your web browser, because this is just temporary and it will give you an error message the next day. It won't bring you back to this article at all. So when you're ready to read the actual full text of the article, you click on linked full text. Other articles might be labeled PDF full text. You click there and it may open a new screen for you, or may just download the PDF. This particular site is asking me to register. I'm going to say, nope, I'm not going to do that. Continue without registering. And here you can read the article right here on the screen. You can download the PDF, or if you're a Zotero user, this is where you would click on the icon in the corner of your browser and download it to Zotero. So that was a demonstration of how you would search in Cinahl Plus with full text. We were on the OT research guide, we clicked evidence-based practice, we clicked on Cinahl Plus with full text. That took us to Cinahl, where we checked on advanced search and added our search terms, put in a bunch of limiters, and then chose an article that seemed relevant to our topic. I just demonstrated Cinahl, but pretty much every database is going to have similar options, even if they look different. For example, this one, Public Health Database. So when the screen for Public Health Database opens, it does look different from Cinahl, but in a lot of ways it's the same. We have this basic search box here, but we'll say no, I am only interested in advanced search. When the advanced search box opens, we see that we have multiple search boxes. We have them connected with that AND connector. We have the option to limit to full text or peer reviewed. We could restrict the publication date if we wanted to. So for example, I'll search for return to work and injury. We have almost 700 search results. Again, we could filter the search results that we get when we see an article that we're interested in. For example, this one about integrating health-related quality of life. We can click on the title and get more information about that article. In this kind of database, it shows you the full text of the article first, and you have to click over to abstract and details to get the information that we saw immediately in Cinahl, like the abstract, the subject headings, the DOI, etc. You also have the option to download the PDF and cite and email it just like we did in Cinahl. I hope this video has been helpful. If you have any questions at all, don't forget to visit us at libguides.brenau.edu/ot and contact me if you have any questions. Thank you.